Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello there, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. How is that big, bright, powerful full moon for all of you? It's always interesting having a full moon at the last degree of a sign because there's so much intensity to that. There's such a fated or karmic nature to it. And I know so many people were feeling that in their own internal landscape, within their own lives, so many things coming to the surface, so many things being revealed, so many things coming back around. And then we had a pretty pivotal event happen here in the US. President Biden stepped down from the nomination for the presidency, and that's, of course, sending a ripple effect through the collective. I think many astrologers we've all been kind of looking at August for that announcement to happen, but it happened earlier. And so interesting that it happened on the full moon in Capricorn, because in so many ways, it represents something completing, a completion. It's connected to the masculine. It's Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, which is the masculine. And there's so many ways in which that this is reflective of the old ways of doing things, of old systems dying. And we're seeing this in our presidential election as well. Our two-party system, is it still working in our favor? Does it make sense? Do we, the people, actually have the power? There's such a discomfort with the amount of change that's occurring, and I talked a lot about that in my last episode, so I won't go into that too much, but the influence of Pluto on this full moon that we had on the 21st at 3:17 a.m. Pacific was deeply influenced by Pluto. Because Pluto has been navigating the last degrees of Capricorn for the last few years. We had it dipping back and forth last year, earlier this year. And so themes coming up around January that are completing now, that are coming to the surface again. There'll be themes that we're revisiting again in September through November as we navigate Pluto's once again retrograde back into Capricorn. So I wouldn't be surprised if something around this election comes back around from September through November. Something connected to President Biden stepping down from the nomination. It's hard to tell what exactly will happen. We have some pretty significant aspects happening in August as well. And of course, 3 more eclipses this year before the election actually happens. So there's just a lot uncoiling, a lot peeling back. This is happening internally as well as Pluto navigates 0 degrees Aquarius and starts dipping back into Capricorn in September. There's certainly going to be a bit of what feels like a regression, a peeling back, a pulling back, a revisiting of certain things and themes, especially things that were coming up for you in January of this year, January of 2024. Thinking back to that time, do you remember what it was like leading up, the few months leading up to Pluto finally crossing through and into the 0 degree point of Aquarius? What was surfacing? What were the themes? What were the feelings? Where does Capricorn land in your chart? This is probably similar to what was coming up with this full moon over the weekend and probably what will continue to surface through the next 6 months as Saturn retrogrades through Pisces, revealing illusion, revealing the ways in which we are escaping, are giving our power away, where we are afraid to look at what's no longer working. Saturn and Capricorn are maturation, evolution, and our Pluto themes continue through this week as the sun finally moves into Leo. It's so welcomed, but then immediately forms an opposition to Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, really highlighting themes around our power, what's hidden within our psyche, what's hidden in the underworld, our relationship to our underworld, our relationship to the past, to pain, to our own power, and to the power of others. It will certainly highlight power dynamics within your relationships. So on July 22nd, finally we move into Leo season. Cancer season was a doozy. It was a big one. We had 2 full moons. We had some pretty significant interaction between Mars and Uranus. So much deep diving into our emotional body, into our psyche. And as we move from water to fire, there is an intensity building, a focus on expression. Leo is the archetype of the king or queen. It's the performer, the lion. It is fully expressed. It is here to be seen. And what's interesting about Leo is that it's not meant to transcend the ego. It's meant to form the ego. It's meant to create and express its own unique individuality and personality. It's really here to teach us where we need to break through our fears of being seen, our fears of being heard, where we resist the light. It's ruled by the sun, so we have this illuminating effect that accompanies Leo placements. I actually intentionally chose the birthday of this podcast as a Leo. It's my midheaven. I love the energy of Leo, the lioness. I think it's perfect for a podcast, and I decided to work with that energy when activating and creating its birth chart. Side note, I'll be doing a really fun giveaway in a few weeks on the birthday of Soul Archaeology, so look out for that. But it's interesting, with Leo being my midheaven, it's not necessarily my comfort zone, so I have to work to activate the Leo. I have to work to find comfort in being seen. And I think that's really true for many of us. If you have significant Leo placements, it means that there is an evolutionary drive to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be expressed. And on the other hand, perhaps some wounding around that. We've had so much sort of regressive type of energy over the last month and a half. It's been more slow moving as we've entered retrograde season, and that will really continue through the summer and into the winter as we enter fully into our retrograde season. But Leo season is really illuminating, and it begins its illumination right directly opposite Pluto on the 23rd, which, like I said, is really going to illuminate our internal landscape, our psyche, our underworld, where we hold fear, where we hold data and information from the past. Pluto will experience that illumination from the sun in Leo, and it will continue to give us insights and information around where we are still afraid of being centered within our life, where we're afraid to be bold, to make the move, to make the change. We're also in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde, which begins on August 4th and goes through the end of August and early September in its shadow. So we'll be working with the sun in Leo during a Mercury retrograde. So there's this interesting focus on expression, on being bold, being seen, while having so many of these planets retrograde, especially Mercury starting its retrograde journey in Virgo and dipping back into Leo. At the end of this year, we also have a Mars retrograde in Leo too. So there are certain Leo themes that will be surfacing and coming up through the end of this year. This is the deep heart work once again. It's about big, bold, courageous moves. And because so much is still not being revealed, so much is still uncertain, we're asked to trust in our heart, to trust that the timing will align when it's ready, and to focus on what we can focus on, to bring everything back to the present. That's where Leo lives. It's where it exists. It's funny, when I think of Leo energy, I think of the old saying, you only live once, which I don't believe in, but it used to be something that was tossed around a lot. And it was, this idea that what a better time than the present. And that's where we're going back to. We're realizing that all we have access to right now is the present. That's where we create from. That's where we create change. That's where we release. And it's so important to stay present with what is right now, to control what we can control, to return back to basics, to review our foundations, our structures. So many people I'm talking to right now, clients, friends, are reviewing their foundations, where they began, what's still in alignment, are the structures still serving? There's a bit of a pulling back in the energy. There's a slowing down so we can see more clearly what's beneath the surface. What do we need to know before we're catapulted into the next chapter? Next year is quite fast. We have some outer planets entering Aries. What work needs to be done now, under the surface, beneath the surface, to rewire how we respond to life, to shift some of our foundations, to create more ease, more flow in our lives. And Leo's giving us the courage to change those things, to take the leap, to look at what's dense, what's hard, what's challenging within our lives, to confront our fears with love. And that will be so helpful, as Chiron is also stationing retrograde on the 26th in Aries. And this transit through Aries is all about self-actualization, self-realization, identity, power, releasing victim consciousness, releasing anywhere where we feel faded or out of our power. Core wounds within the sign of Aries could surface and reemerge during this time. This goes through December. And so we will need that courage, that love, that self-compassion to be with and sit with these pain points. The purpose of Chiron is to help us be with our pain, to teach us how to be with the pain, how to understand it, how to love it, how to accept it. So much of our suffering comes from avoiding pain, from gripping to what's familiar so we can avoid and prevent pain, prevent our core wounds being activated. But when we live from that fear, we resist life. We resist and avoid and miss out on the true power and potential of our lives. So this is a powerful week. This is a powerful week of transmuting our fears, transmuting our pain points, being with what is, integrating this intense full moon that we've had, noticing what was completed, what was revealed, what was released so that we can move through this fall with more clarity, more conviction, more direction. And maybe that just means being with your heart in a deeper way. Maybe that doesn't necessarily mean there's more clarity, but there's more wholeness, there's more integration. I have my full moon in Capricorn workshop still up for purchase. You can really work with this energy and do this workshop. A lot of it's about Pluto. A lot of it is about these last few degrees of Capricorn. So you can do this practice through the rest of the year, really into the beginning of next year, as Pluto is at the first degrees of Aquarius next year. I will link that in my show notes. And the card that came through for this episode is the Manta Ray card from the Untamed Elemental deck. And it's all about calibration. The great Manta Ray soars through the water and even catapults himself into the air with fierce strength. His ability to gracefully maneuver comes from a deft internal temperature regulator and exceptional navigation skills. Moving with innate knowledge, Manta Ray is perfectly calibrated for his environment. Manta Ray sightings beckon you to break free from the obstacles that hold you back and reconfigure them for your greater good. Manta Ray illustrates the importance of calibrating your life force so that you can experience more ease, grace, and freedom through the depths and surfaces of life. Shake off any negative energy that is accumulated on or around you. Make certain you are surrounded by positive, loving, encouraging relationships that reflect back your magnificence. Release anything that is draining your energy. Practice unconditional self-respect. These efforts will allow you to align with the natural flow and rhythm of life so that your time and energy are efficiently spent and you are more available for play and fun. When it's balanced, you feel playful, energized, and in touch with your body's innate wisdom. When it's imbalanced, you feel drain, overexertion, unnecessarily cautious. To bring into balance, find joy in simplicity and freedom in the complicated. That's very spot on as it pertains to Leo and the playful, joyful, childlike essence and spirit that radiates from that sign. And that's really what that sign is about. It's about coming back to joy, coming back to our inner light, coming back to the play and the expression of our innermost sense of joy. So this is definitely an integration week. We have some pretty big aspects as well, but in many ways we will be integrating and recalibrating from this full moon in Capricorn, really getting clear on what the next steps are as far as our journey and our process, how we can go back to our systems and our processes to review, to recalibrate, to reacclimate to the new energies. Thank you for being here, for your presence, for your support, for your openness and devotion to your own processes. It means the world. I appreciate your support so much, more than I can say. It's always so helpful if you share on Instagram, rate, review. We'll be doing another giveaway, I guess next week, actually, 2 weeks from now. And that will be to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Soul Archaeology. So I'm just so deeply grateful for your presence. Thank you for being here, and have a beautiful week.